Islands of Grenada, which are the sister islands of Grenada. So I'm down here to give support. I brought some relief items. See how are we going to support them? And other projects that we've been doing with Grenada with regards to the disability community, supporting persons with disabilities, supporting kids with disabilities, supporting the schools. That's what our mandate, based on the foundation is health and education with a lot of training, different program training, disability, neurodiversion, training for teachers, coding for kids, and no one left out. We include they call it here in the island special needs schools. But we're trying to support them to reach the 2030 Sustainable Development Goal. We shouldn't be separating kids. So to be able to equip the teachers to create their program for inclusive classroom training. So having a dyslexia or autism or ADHD kids in the classroom and learn how to handle them with the regular kids in the classroom and how you can integrate the regular kids into a special need child, a child that is with a disability in the classroom. So we're really happy to be working with these islands, and we were saddened by the devastation of this hurricane upon these Caribbean. We're all vulnerable in the Caribbean due to climate change.
Mm-hmm. So in your assessment now, having been on the ground for a few days, what would you say to the families who are abroad in the UK, USA, Canada? Where do you think, from what you've seen, in terms of the sustainable recovery, where do you think the effort should focus on?
Excellent. That's a great discussion. And something flopped in my brain, and I was saying, should I really say this on the program? But I should, because first thing a family needs to know, do a little research or take a class in first aid or disaster or a community response emergency team training.
Yeah.
We all need it. We're from the Caribbean. Every year we go through hurricane season. So we got to equip ourselves so that we can know how to handle and provide support to our family members and even for us, because we are prone for disaster anywhere. And COVID was a major disaster, and we were not ready. So, well, I said not everybody. I mean, a few were.
I mean, Andrew, you make a good point, and I've done quite a lot of work around this. And where we were not ready is our professionals weren't ready.
You got that.
Our professional class, our academic class. So, and unless the professionals and the academics give clarity and thought about how we deliver the education into our communities, and then it's carried out and supported by your local communities, the families and the leadership. So in other words, what we're faced with now in the 21st century is that we have to construct some systems that will respond to our well-being. And you're so right, because I had Wayne Hall on the show recently, last couple of days, and he was just talking about the challenges around connectivity, So any of us can be in the Caribbean at any time. That's why the education and the climate resilience, climate impact education is really important, because you mentioned the Sustainable Development Goals, 2030. The academics in that world are already saying that we're way behind. and that's the developed countries. So you can imagine the developing countries, and we're just talking about the
Right.
Caribbean. So again, I think part of that now must be the professionals, those family members, collaborating now and actually coming up with a plan, because we need a sustainable recovery. The Caribbean needs a sustainable recovery because, as you said, every year it's hurricane season, but the impact of climate change means that we need some kind of resilience plan, sustainability
Right.
plan. And at the moment, we're not producing any platforms and sharing that learning about how we're going to do that across the Caribbean itself. But not only that, the families who are connected, particularly in the UK, US, and Canada. So we've got to connect these systems now, because the climate
Absolutely.
impact, it impacts all of us, doesn't it, in one go? And going back to your
Absolutely.
point, we don't have a collective response, a systemic response, preparation.
Absolutely. We need to put together these systems, or if these systems are put together, because sometimes there are systems are there. Are we implementing them? Because that's sometimes some of the problem that the region face, the implementation process.
Yeah.
And for instance, I'm not going to call where, but there was an incident where somebody was under rubble. Somebody was on a rubble for 11 days.
Mm.
So where was the system that you know the numbers of elderly in your community?
Yeah.
You know where they are located,
Yeah.
and that's how the system is set. If you have done the training, I mean, we just came out of the community emergency response team training,
Mm.
and it opened your mind to so much
Mm.
that a disaster can happen. I mean, Roddy, I show you the
Yeah.
the photos. I've been through two hurricane myself. So we know every time a hurricane comes, it's going to destroy stuff. We know we're going to be out of water for a certain time period.
Mhm.
We know we're not going to have electricity. So we got to prepare ourselves, our list of important items, securing our valuables and so forth. One thing I must say, we are resilient people or Caribbean people.
Mhm.
Although we had although they had the devastation, people were happy that their lives were saved.
Yeah.
And they are in that mood to start to rebuild, to start to pick up their life and continue. Because we Caribbean people are resilient
Yeah.
people.
Absolutely. So for the future, we've got to work out or reach a consensus at least in terms of where does the collective responsibility lie,
Right.
and that in fact the accountability lies with us, the families in our neighborhoods, our local communities, because that's where the greatest impact is felt. So there
Right.
probably has to be a corresponding
And back to your
accountability.
question of what the family members. So persons need to understand. I was so blessed and happy to have the opportunity of going over to Carriacou. I took the boat over because that's the only mean of transportation to get to Carriacou at this moment. They do have an airport. Airport terminal destroy. 90, I said 85% of the island is devastated, including the trees and everything. Um, Luckily, the hospital is in operation. It has generator. However, they have lost their X-ray machine and the maternity bed. They're going to need a lot of help because the roof has been damaged. Water came in, so you imagine a cleanup effort. Pole lines are down. Once again, I just post something on the Minister for Carriacou page, and I said to him, I said on it, we need to think of placing all wires underground. Cayman Island has done it. Many other islands have done it. Why are we still at this stage having street light wire and all of those, the wires? I'm not saying street light, but you know, the wire poles.
Yeah.
Electricity being run on poles.
Electricity grid, isn't it? Yeah. Yeah.
So we have to look at building smart resilience and how we tackle, you know, changes. Because again, speaking to people on the ground who have been through Ivan and now Bill went through Beryl, Ivan wasn't as bad as this one. And every year we see in the forecast, they say that they're going to get stronger. So we got to prepare ourselves. Another thing too, sending items. We need to understand that we have to be careful of what we're sending. It depends on who. If you're sending to your grandparents and your elderly, you gotta be mindful of salty stuff, these canned stuff with preservative to raise their blood pressure. They might be diabetic and those kind of stuff. So we've got to be careful what we're sending. Think of what you would need if you were not in your house and you're stranded without nothing. The only thing you have with you is a few clothes, and yes, your shoes get wet, but it can't get dry, and that's it. You need toiletry, you need toothpaste to wash your face, you need soap to wash your face, brush your teeth every day. They don't have that. I went inside of the supermarket and yes, the lights is in there. And but they were dry goods to buy because they got damaged. Don't even talk about units in the restroom. We need to know what's going on with that situation. We know that they have sent portables. Portables are over there. Portables arrive, but hopefully that will start out because we don't want an outbreak. And you know, nobody wants an outbreak, I should say. And you know, those are some of the stuff that was picked up while over there. You know, I went over there, I couldn't use the bathroom. I had to keep it until I go on the boat. That is how devastated the island is.
So all of this then, Andrew, from what I'm picking up from you, for those of us who are into sharing knowledge and experience and focusing on sustainable development, is that we need some more dialogues where it's set out very clearly from the experts in our community with those simple thoughts about how we prepare. Whether you're
absolutely,
because, you know, because we, just like you, even it doesn't really matter where we live, the location doesn't matter, so we kind of have to get out of everybody's mind about location.
Right, you got that right, because even where you are, sometimes you get climates.
Exactly, but we may be in the Caribbean, you know,
right, at the time when it's happening,
at the time, so that there is a challenge for us as the Caribbean region is yet to work out how it will include the families, UK, USA, Canada, in the decision making around the Caribbean, other than when there's a call for the help of the families. And then when there isn't a disaster, we've got to come up with a consensus, work out what the priorities are, what is the resilience plan, what's the sustainable recovery look like? Because each time that you have to recover, you actually want to move things on, use the latest technology. Think of communication systems. We've got massive social media now, and there's a lot of information that should have been at a press of the button, should have connected into lots of systems, advise people. And you know, we're just a small outfit, but we try and collaborate, share our platforms all the time. But again, we haven't reached a consensus across all our families to say, look, when there's a disaster in one Caribbean island, everybody knows about it. Get the resources moving so it can be shared, you know.
Right.
So we need a lot more thinking in this area. And you know, as we're running to 2030, that's what all other societies are doing.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. But I'm saying never give up. We got to keep the spirit alive. Mental health is also very important. And what we've been doing is laying the groundwork for education. As I said, I'm all about education. That's a few Caribbean islands as excel in their educational system. When you look at Cuba, you look at Barbados with a high literacy rate, with you know, everybody's have their degree in some sort of area. That's where we should be. You know, the Caribbean needs to be at that level. So we're just working with the OECS countries to better them, and also work with a few of the larger English-speaking Caribbean to really improve educational systems and provide more training for them. And that's what we've been doing. So I'm happy. I mean, I could talk about union because we've been communicating with the principals of the schools, because that's where right now in Carriacou, one of the schools that we support is a shelter. Not much damage, but we're going to help them to bounce back up. So that's one of our responsibility there, is to make sure we support the system, education system, support the schools, and provide the training.
I mean, it is excellent because, again, when you look at the professionals that we have around the three main countries that, you know, are part of the Caribbean family, we've got to use these platforms for that, again, professional collaboration. And I like your approach, which is important. And we talk about the 21st century learning and skills, collaboration, communication, creativity, critical thinking.
Oh, yes.
But most importantly, it's the inclusion agenda, which is so important because it's about also learning how individuals will learn best. And again, we've got lots of really talented people who are good at teaching and training and working with teachers to better understand that we all learn in a different way.
Right.
And it's great talent to be unleashed, you know, and we know with the Caribbean, we are about the creative economy because we turn our ideas and we translate them, music, great art, design, and all kinds of wonderful things. But it has to be reflected in the education system for everyone, regardless of their background, culture, status, or location.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, man, Rudy, it was really great to be talking to you, man. And I am happy to support. As I said, I spoke to one of the principal in Union Island, which belongs to St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Because, guys, just to give you a picture of the layout of where these islands are. So Grenada is south. Border to it is Tobago, is one of the closest point. And then you have its sister islands and the Grenadines. So I would say the Grenadines is its closest point, then Tobago. The Grenadines and its sister islands are clusters of islands. And so you have Carriacou, Petit Martinique, Petit Saint Vincent, Union Island, and the hurricane passed through that passage, and that gave devastation to all of those islands. 90%, the principal told me 90% of people in Union Island are homeless. So, I mean, we just have to do what we have to do and continue to support, and not only support in in-kind stuff, but support in policy changes.
Yeah.
Support in participating in the discussion and decision-making process.
Yeah.
And
then the implementation of those policies.
You got that right.
Yeah.
So I'm glad Grenada is open for business, guys. Do not say that Grenada is not open for business. Grenada is open for business. I'm in a hotel. There are many hotels that are open, the restaurants. I just went to the beach this morning. So it's open for business.
Right.
However, the sister islands are the ones that are total devastation. Not total, let's say 85% devastation on the island.
Thank you. Yes, it's a shame, but like you say, we do our best. What we can do, we will keep doing. So, Andrew, before I let you go, one final message for everyone.
I'm always, and I know a lot of Caribbean folks are God-fearing people, and whichever God you serve, we gotta be kind to one another and love one another. So leaving with that thought of we as Caribbean people has always had that, and for those who are elderly Caribbean people, you know that's how you were brought up, to love and always say hello to your neighbor. And if their neighbor need a thing of salt, you would give it to them and those kind of stuff. So we have to see how we can continue to love and show kindness to one another, and impart that into our youngsters, our first and second generation, second and third generation, sorry, that this is how we did it in the island.
These are the values.
And continue to pass on the values to these younger ones. That's all. And then the world will be a better place.
For all
Thank
of
you,
us.
Ruby. Yeah, thank you,
you.
Ruby, man. Appreciate everything that you do in the UK for the Caribbean community. And we just have to continually to build our Caribbean nation, because again, home is home. Not care where we are.
Absolutely.
Home is always home.
Thank you. And talk soon.
Yeah, man. Take care, Ruby.
Yes, bye.